What happens when a Hollywood icon known for his calm intelligence walks onto a live daytime talk show, expecting a polite conversation, and instead finds himself pushed, interrupted, and quietly provoked until the air itself feels too tight to breathe? What happens when the charm drops, the smile fades, and a single moment turns into a clash that freezes an entire studio in stunned silence? Before this story unfolds any further, if you're drawn to explosive celebrity moments told like a movie unfolding in real time, make sure you subscribe to the Narration show, hit the like button, and drop a comment letting us know what you think. Because stories like this don't just happen, they detonate. The studio lights glow warm and deceptively friendly, bathing the familiar set of The View in its usual daytime calm. The audience is settling in, murmurs floating through the air like soft static. Producers exchange glances behind the cameras, checking their cues, adjusting headsets, making sure everything looks effortless. On the couch, Joy Behar sits with her signature posture, confident, alert, already mentally shaping questions before they're spoken. She's done this for decades. She knows how to steer a conversation, how to poke, how to provoke without seeming to. Today, though, there's something different humming beneath the surface. George Clooney is moments away from stepping onto the stage. Backstage, Clooney stands with his jacket buttoned, shoulders relaxed, face calm in that unmistakable way that made him a star. To anyone watching, he looks unbothered, prepared, even amused. But inside, his mind is sharp, alert. He's done enough interviews to know that not every smile means welcome, not every laugh is friendly. He's here to promote a project, yes, but he's also here as a man who has opinions, boundaries, and a growing weariness with being talked over. He takes a breath, nods to a stagehand, and walks out to applause that swells instantly. The audience rises halfway out of their seats, clapping louder than expected. Clooney flashes that familiar grin, waving lightly, acknowledging the energy. He shakes hands, exchanges polite greetings, and takes his seat. For a brief moment, everything feels exactly as it should. The kind of television moment that slides by unnoticed, comfortable and forgettable. Joy leans forward first. "So, George," she says, smiling, her tone playful but pointed, "you've never been one to shy away from speaking your mind." A harmless opener. Clooney nods, chuckles softly. "I suppose not," he replies, voice smooth, measured. The conversation begins gently. They talk about his career, his activism, his life beyond the screen. Clooney answers thoughtfully, choosing words with care, offering insight without preaching. The audience reacts warmly, laughter landing where expected, applause sprinkled in just enough to keep the rhythm alive. Then Joy shifts. She tilts her head slightly, the smile still there, but her eyes sharpen. "But some people say," she continues, "that celebrities like you talk a lot about issues without really understanding what everyday people are going through." A ripple moves through the crowd. Clooney doesn't react immediately. He listens. That pause, just half a second longer than usual, doesn't go unnoticed. Cameras subtly adjust, sensing tension before it fully forms. "I don't think it's about pretending to understand everyone's experience," Clooney says carefully. "It's about listening, supporting, and using whatever platform you have responsibly." Joy interjects quickly. "But isn't that a little convenient?" There it is. The first interruption. Clooney's smile tightens just a fraction. He keeps his composure. "If I can finish." Joy waves a hand lightly. "Go ahead." But the tone has shifted. The air feels different now, heavier, more charged. Clooney finishes his thought, but the rhythm is broken. The audience senses it too, shifting in their seats, leaning forward. Joy presses again, questioning motives, challenging sincerity, framing her points as curiosity, but delivering them like accusations wrapped in humor. Clooney responds, still calm, still controlled, but something is building beneath the surface. His jaw sets slightly. His hands, once relaxed, now rest firmly together. "I think sometimes," he says, "the conversation gets lost when we assume bad faith instead of genuine concern." Joy laughs softly. "Or when we assume applause equals understanding." A few nervous laughs from the audience. Clooney looks directly at her now, no longer scanning the room, no longer performing for the cameras. "This is personal. I'm not assuming applause means anything," he says. "I'm saying dialogue matters. And I'm saying," Joy cuts in again, "that dialogue goes both ways." That second interruption lands harder. The room goes quiet, the kind of quiet that feels intentional. Clooney inhales slowly. For the first time, the charm fades completely. "Joy," he says, voice still low but firmer now, "I've listened to your point. I'm asking for the same courtesy. The audience gasps softly. It's subtle but unmistakable. A line has been crossed. Joy leans back slightly, eyebrows raised, half smiling as if amused by the pushback. I am listening, she says. I'm just challenging you. And that's fair, Clooney replies, but cutting someone off repeatedly isn't a challenge. It's a shutdown. Now the studio freezes. Cameras hold tight shots. No one laughs. No one claps. Even the co-hosts sit still, sensing that this moment is slipping out of the usual daytime TV script. Joy's smile fades. Well, I disagree, she says, tone sharper. This is a debate show. Clooney nods slowly. Then let's debate, he says. Not interrupt. The words hang in the air like smoke. The audience is fully locked in now, eyes wide, breaths held. This is no longer promotion. This is confrontation. Joy crosses her arms. You're taking this very personally. Because respect is personal, Clooney replies without hesitation. A murmur rolls through the crowd. Somewhere off camera, a producer shifts nervously. This wasn't rehearsed. This wasn't planned. This is real. Joy leans forward again, voice rising slightly. So now you're saying I'm disrespectful? I'm saying, Clooney answers, matching her intensity, that conversations work better when both sides feel heard. The silence afterward is deafening. The audience doesn't know whether to applaud or stay quiet. Some clap anyway, a scattered reaction that only heightens the tension. Joy opens her mouth to respond, then stops. For the first time, she seems unsure. Clooney sits back, but he doesn't relax. His eyes stay locked on her, expression steady, resolute. The clash hasn't exploded yet, but it's on the edge. Everyone can feel it. The hosts exchange quick glances. The audience leans forward as one. And somewhere in that charged stillness, it becomes clear. This interview is no longer about talking points. It's about control, respect, and who gets the last word. The moment stretches, fragile and electric, as the studio waits to see who will speak next. The silence doesn't last long, but it feels endless. Joy shifts in her seat, the chair creaking softly, a sound far too loud in the stillness that has settled over the studio. The audience is no longer relaxed. Every person is upright now, eyes flicking between the two figures like spectators at the edge of a storm. Clooney remains still, composed on the surface, though his pulse is loud in his ears. He knows this moment matters. Not for headlines, not for clips, but for something older and deeper, dignity. Joy clears her throat. George, she says, forcing a small laugh. I think you're reading too much into this. He tilts his head slightly, not aggressive, not dismissive, just attentive. I don't think so, he replies. I think when people talk over each other, the message gets lost. Joy exhales through her nose, a sign of irritation she doesn't bother hiding. You came on a show where people talk. That's kind of the point. And I came on ready to listen, Clooney answers. I just expected the same space to speak. The co-hosts glance at each other again. One opens her mouth, then closes it. Another shifts papers nervously, pretending to review notes while clearly listening to every word. The producers behind the cameras are frozen, fingers hovering near control switches, debating whether to cut to commercial or let it ride. They don't cut. Not yet. Joy leans forward, elbows on her knees now, posture more confrontational. So let me ask you this, she says. Do you think your fame gives you a different kind of authority in these conversations? Clooney's eyes narrow slightly, not in anger, but in concentration. It gives me a microphone, he says. Authority comes from how you use it. She scoffs lightly. That sounds nice, but power doesn't disappear just because you say the right words. A low murmur ripples through the audience. Clooney nods slowly. I agree, he says, which is why I try to be careful with it. Joy jumps in again before he can continue. But you still benefit from it. Clooney's jaw tightens. This time, he doesn't let it slide. Joy, he says, voice firmer now. You asked a question. Let me answer it. Her eyebrows lift. I am. No, he says quietly. You're interrupting. The word lands harder than before. A sharp inhale passes through the room. Joy straightens, clearly offended. Excuse me? I'm not trying to disrespect you, Clooney continues, steady and unflinching. But I won't pretend this isn't happening. For a brief second, it feels like the studio might erupt. Joy opens her mouth, then pauses, eyes darting toward the audience, aware now of how exposed the moment is. She sits back, crossing one leg over the other, arms folded again, a defensive posture masked as composure. Fine, she says. Go ahead. Clooney takes a breath. Yes, I benefit from visibility, he says. And I also accept the responsibility that comes with it. That doesn't mean I'm right all the time. It means I'm accountable. He stops. He waits. The pause is deliberate. Joy doesn't interrupt. The audience claps softly, hesitant at first, then louder. The applause breaks the tension just enough to let air back into the room. Joy forces a smile. See, she says. You got your moment. Clooney looks at her, puzzled. That's not what this is about. Her smile fades again. Then what is it about? Respect, he says simply. The word echoes. Respect. It's not flashy. It's not political. It's human. The audience feels it, and so does Joy, though she resists showing it. She shifts again, tapping her fingers against her knee. This isn't personal, she insists. But it feels that way, Clooney replies. And feelings matter, whether we like it or not. The co-host nearest Joy finally speaks up, voice cautious. Maybe we should all take a breath here. Joy nods quickly, seizing the out. Exactly, she says. Let's reset. But Clooney doesn't move on so easily. Resetting only works if we acknowledge what happened, he says. Now the tension sharpens again. Joy's patience is thinning. So what, you want an apology? I want awareness, Clooney answers. From all of us. The audience murmurs louder now. Some nod. Others look uncomfortable. This is no longer entertainment. It's confrontation stripped of spectacle. Joy laughs again, but there's no humor in it. Wow, she says. This is getting dramatic. Because it is, Clooney replies. We're talking about how people treat each other on live television. Joy's eyes flash. I've been doing this longer than you've been acting. And I respect that, Clooney says. That's why I expected better. That's the moment. The one that freezes everything. Joy's mouth falls slightly open. The audience gasps openly now. A co-host whispers something under her breath. The producers exchange panicked looks. Joy sits upright, voice sharp. Better. Yes, Clooney says, unwavering. Better listening. For several seconds, no one speaks. The silence is thick, almost unbearable. Joy looks away first, glancing toward the camera, toward the audience, anywhere but him. She forces another smile, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Well, she says, clapping her hands once too loudly. This took a turn. The audience doesn't laugh. They wait. Joy sighs, shaking her head. You know what, she says, we'll agree to disagree. Clooney nods. That's fine, he says. As long as we actually hear each other first. The applause this time is louder, more confident. Some audience members stand. The energy has shifted. Joy notices. She presses her lips together, clearly aware she's losing the room. She turns toward the camera. When we come back, she says quickly, we'll talk more with George Clooney. The words feel hollow. Clooney doesn't react. He sits quietly, hands folded, expression calm but resolute. As the cameras pull back slightly, the audience buzzes with whispered reactions. Some shake their heads. Others smile, impressed. Joy adjusts her microphone, avoiding eye contact now. The clash isn't over. It's only paused, suspended like a held breath before the next wave hits. The red light above the main camera dims just slightly as the show slips into a brief transition. But the tension doesn't follow the script. It stays. It lingers in the air, thick and uncomfortable, wrapping itself around every person in the studio. The audience whispers to each other, some leaning close, others shaking their heads in disbelief. This doesn't feel like a normal break. It feels like the calm before something sharper. George Clooney remains seated, posture steady, eyes forward. Inside, his thoughts are loud but controlled. He didn't come here to fight. He didn't come here to make anyone look small. But he also didn't come here to be talked over, dismissed, or turned into a convenient target for a punchline disguised as a question. He tells himself to stay grounded. Say what matters. Don't escalate for the sake of ego. Across from him, Joy Behar adjusts her glasses, her movements quick and restless. She's been on live television long enough to recognize when the room slips away from her control. This isn't just another heated exchange she can laugh off. This one landed, and the audience knows it. She knows it too. The lights brighten again. The red light snaps fully back on. Joy forces energy into her voice. We're back, she says, smiling tightly. Still here with George Clooney. A ripple of applause follows, louder than before. Clooney nods politely, acknowledging the crowd. The applause isn't for the movie. It isn't even for the celebrity. It's for the moment. For someone finally pushing back in a space where pushback rarely goes unchallenged. Joy turns toward him, tilting her head. Let me ask you something, George, she says, voice smoother now, more measured. Do you think moments like this distract from the work you're trying to promote? Clooney meets her gaze. I think moments like this reveal more than any press tour ever could. The audience reacts instantly. A low rolls through the seats. Joy blinks, caught off guard by the honesty. Reveal what exactly? How conversations really work, he says. Who gets heard? Who gets cut off? And how uncomfortable it makes people when that pattern is questioned. Joy's smile fades again. So now this is about the show? It's about all of us, Clooney replies. Including me. She crosses her arms. You're very confident for someone who claims he doesn't want authority. Clooney exhales slowly. Confidence isn't dominance, he says. Sometimes it's just clarity. The co-hosts sit motionless, afraid to step in, afraid to choose a side. One glances toward the audience, clearly reading the room. The energy is unmistakable now. The balance has shifted. Joy shakes her head. I think you're being overly sensitive. Clooney nods. That's a common way to dismiss someone's experience. A sharp intake of breath echoes through the studio. Joy's eyes narrow. That's not fair. Neither is ignoring how something lands, he says, still calm, still controlled. Intent doesn't erase impact. The audience begins clapping before Joy can respond. This time it's sustained, deliberate. Some people are fully on their feet now. The sound swells, filling the studio, pressing in on Joy from every direction. She raises a hand, trying to regain control. Okay, she says. We hear you. Clooney looks at her gently, but firmly. Do you? The question isn't loud. It isn't aggressive. That's what makes it devastating. Joy hesitates. Just for a second. But that second is everything. The audience sees it. The cameras capture it. The moment stretches, exposing the crack in her armor. Yes, she says finally. I hear you. Then let me finish one thought without interruption, Clooney replies. The studio goes completely silent. He continues. I've spent years in rooms where power decided who spoke and who stayed quiet. I've seen how easily voices get overridden, how quickly conversations turn into performances. I don't want to be part of that anymore, on either side. Joy opens her mouth, then closes it again. She nods stiffly. Go on. When someone says they feel disrespected, Clooney says, the instinct shouldn't be to argue. It should be to listen. He stops speaking. He waits. Joy doesn't interrupt. She can't. The audience applauds again, louder than before. The sound feels final, like a verdict. Joy exhales sharply, her frustration barely contained. You're turning this into a lecture. Clooney shakes his head. I'm turning it into a mirror. That's when it happens. Joy laughs, a sharp, dismissive sound. Oh, please, she says. You're not the first man to come on this show and tell us how to behave. The room stiffens instantly. Clooney's expression changes, not angry but wounded. This isn't about gender, he says quietly. It's about respect. But you're making it sound like I'm the villain, Joy snaps. I'm describing a moment, Clooney replies. If it feels uncomfortable, maybe that's worth examining. The audience gasps again. A co-host finally leans in. Maybe we should move on. No. Joy cuts in sharply, holding up her hand. I want to address this. She turns fully toward Clooney now, eyes blazing. I've challenged politicians, celebrities, presidents. I don't apologize for asking hard questions. And I don't expect you to, Clooney responds. I expect you to let people answer them. The words hit like a final blow. Joy sits back, stunned. For the first time since the clash began, she has no immediate comeback. The silence that follows is different from before. It's heavier, more final. The audience doesn't move. No clapping, no murmurs, just breath held across the room. Joy finally speaks, voice lower. Maybe, she says slowly, we both could have handled this better. Clooney nods. That's all I'm saying. The tension doesn't vanish, but it shifts. The fire dims into embers. The confrontation has reached its peak, and everyone knows it. The audience exhales collectively, as if released from a grip they didn't realize they were under. Joy straightens her notes, avoiding his eyes again. All right, she says quietly. Let's talk about your film. Clooney agrees, but something fundamental has already changed. The studio will move on, the show will continue, but the moment has carved itself into the air, into memory. Because this wasn't just a clash. It was a reckoning, and everyone watching knows the aftermath is still coming. The conversation technically moves on, but nothing about the room feels normal anymore. Words are spoken, questions are asked, answers are given, yet they float past the audience like background noise. The real story has already happened, and everyone knows it. The cameras keep rolling, but the energy has shifted into something raw and unsettled, like the final moments after an argument when the truth has been exposed and there's no easy way to put it back. George Clooney speaks about his film with professionalism, his voice calm, his posture steady. He answers clearly, respectfully, without bitterness. But beneath that calm is resolve. He doesn't look triumphant. He doesn't look angry. He looks certain. Certain that what needed to be said was said. Certain that silence would have been the real loss. Joy Behar listens, nodding at intervals, occasionally interjecting, but now she waits. The interruptions are gone. Each pause before she speaks feels intentional, careful. The audience notices immediately. They always do. Power dynamics are invisible until they change, and once they do, they can't be unseen. As the segment nears its end, the applause comes again, longer this time, layered with emotion. Some audience members stand. Others wipe their eyes. Not because of the movie, not because of celebrity worship, but because they witnessed something rare on live television. A boundary drawn calmly and held firmly. Joy turns toward Clooney one last time before the break. "Well," she says, forcing warmth back into her voice. "Thank you for being here." Clooney meets her eyes. "Thank you for having me. It's polite. It's civil. But it's charged with everything unsaid." The cameras cut. The red light goes dark. And that's when the real fallout begins. Behind the scenes, the studio erupts into hushed chaos. Producers speak in quick, low voices. Assistants check phones already lighting up with notifications. Someone mutters, "That's going viral." Another says nothing at all, just stares at a monitor replaying the exchange in stunned silence. Joy removes her microphone, exhaling sharply. She doesn't storm off. She doesn't smile either. She stands still for a moment, collecting herself, aware that millions just watched her lose control of a moment she usually commands effortlessly. Clooney rises, thanks the crew, shakes hands. His manner is gracious but distant. He knows this moment doesn't end when he leaves the building. Outside the studio, the world is already reacting. Clips hit social media within minutes. Not hours. Minutes. Short, sharp excerpts loop endlessly. "Let me finish." That's not a challenge. That's a shutdown. Do you? Each line becomes a headline. Each pause becomes a meme. Each expression is dissected frame by frame. On X, hashtags explode. Some praise Clooney for standing his ground, calling it calm, classy, overdue. Others rush to Joy's defense, arguing she was doing her job, that confrontation is the format, that sensitivity has no place in debate. Comment sections become battlegrounds. Threads stretch into the thousands. No one is neutral. Media outlets rush to publish think pieces. Did George Clooney expose a problem with daytime TV? The view clash that sparked a bigger conversation about respect. Live TV freeze, when control slipped on air. Pundits argue on panels about tone, power, ego, gender, fame. Everyone has an angle. Everyone claims the truth. Joy Behar's name trends. George Clooney's name trends higher. Late-night hosts joke about it carefully, testing the waters. Some side with Clooney, praising his restraint. Others tread lightly, unwilling to alienate either camp. The clip plays again and again, but what people really react to isn't the words. It's the silence. That moment when Joy hesitated. That moment when the audience decided. Clooney releases no statement. None is needed. His silence speaks louder than any press release could. Sources close to him say he doesn't regret it. That he's tired of conversations where listening is optional. That he knew the second it happened, there was no taking it back. And he was fine with that. Joy addresses it days later, briefly, during another episode. She laughs it off at first, calls it a spirited discussion. But the laughter doesn't land the same way anymore. Viewers hear what's missing now. The edge sounds defensive. The confidence sounds forced. And audiences don't forget. Clips continue circulating weeks later. Commenters write things like, "This changed how I see talk shows." He said what everyone feels. That pause says everything. The moment becomes shorthand for something bigger. How often voices get cut off, how power hides behind humor, how rare it is to see someone push back without shouting. In media schools, professors play the clip. In podcasts, hosts analyze it line by line. In living rooms, people argue about it over dinner. Not because it was explosive, but because it was restrained. because it showed that tension doesn't need yelling to be devastating. For The View, ratings spike briefly. Controversy always brings eyes, but so does scrutiny. Every interruption afterward is noticed. Every overlap is counted. The audience is listening differently now. For Clooney, the moment becomes part of his public narrative, not as a scandal, but as a stand. Another chapter in a career built on choosing when to speak and when not to. He returns to his work, unchanged on the surface, but unmistakably clearer in the way he carries himself. And for the viewers, something lingers. Because this wasn't just about a celebrity clash. It was about what happens when someone calmly says, "Let me finish," and refuses to back down. It was about the discomfort of being called out without being attacked. It was about live television reminding everyone that authenticity can't be edited out in real time. Now it's your turn. What do you think really happened in that studio? Was George Clooney right to push back, or was Joy Behar simply doing her job? Did this moment expose a deeper problem in how conversations are controlled on television? Or was it blown out of proportion? Share your opinion in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if you want more cinematic, intense, behind-the-moment stories that feel like you're inside the room while history unfolds, subscribe to the Narration show right now. Like this video, share it with someone who loves explosive media moments, and stay with us, because the next story is already waiting.